Hey y'all, it is Alexis from Ask Alexis here. And guess who we have on the comfy couch today? Oh my goodness, we have the one and only, the illustrious, luxurious, voluptuous Ber-henda Williams, visionary empath coach. Okay. And also, she a social justice entrepreneur. And she be out here making big changes in the world, and she's extra special to my heart because Ber-henda was one of the first people who used. She's super psychic, y'all, but she used her gifts and saw something in me that didn't. I kind of knew was there, but I think Ber-henda was the first other person to see it. Like after I had my spiritual awakening, so I, I am honored to have you on the comfy couch, but I am, you know, the journey that you, at least what you've seen, so you know how long it took to get a comfy couch to have you on. So please welcome. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, it's my pleasure.
So Ber-henda, visionary empath coach. Now, because I have been under your tutelage, I have an idea of what that is, but I'm gonna let you tell our audience what that is and why they need you. And y'all
Okay.
need her. And I'm gonna just let you know. Listen to see how you need her because you do.
Well, thank you for that warm introduction. So yeah, visionary empath coach is what I do out here in these streets. And so it is someone who is able to feel the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of another person as if it were their own. And I take the work a little bit further because it was an aha for me to look at social justice movements and who led and participated. And I would venture to say that MLK, Thich Nhat Hanh, Cesar Chavez, and Dolores Huerta, and like all the people that were at the forefront had a great deal of empathy. And that for me, social justice is a spiritual practice. And so if we are one, right, we say this that we are one, then that means that everything that comes with us is one too.
Not anything, not something, everything.
Everything.
This we live in oneness now, is what I like to say. It is really more of, is this what you want your oneness to look like? Because at this point we all on this one planet. We are living in oneness, and do you want a divided oneness or a unified oneness? Do you want for a shared and inclusive future, or you want to keep living this divided bullshit?
Yeah.
Which life you
And then
like better?
if it's divided, it's not oneness.
Well, to me, it's oneness in
Yeah.
separation. Is oneness. So I am the reason that where I come from when I say oneness is we're in oneness now is, to me, we have to accept that we are, like, it's just a fact that we are one species on this planet. Like, we're just all humans on the one planet, and we exist together. And what the way we exist is, this is what it is right now. What are we going to do about it?
Well, I guess what I mean is the consciousness.
Yeah, we are
Your
not
mind has to
this.
get to, and what we're seeing, in our world, we've hit a tipping point. And we saw that with the onset last year, particularly of the coronavirus, and then in succession because the black bodies dropping was not new. Not out here in these streets. It was not new.
Mm-mm.
But now you're paying attention to it. So if you're an empath, and I have noticed that in our space, it's don't take on the world's problems and sort of bury your head in the sand. And it's like, no, 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 no. We've
That's
been
called spiritual
given,
bypassing.
that's correct.
You do.
We've been given too many examples, Alexis, of what empathy in action looks like. We've got so many examples. And as I even went into a more spiritual, sort of esoteric You look at all of the Sufi poets, you look at all of the ascended masters, so Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, they were all Harriet Tubman,
She plays.
she places.
Hmm.
Mhm. They were all directed and given a divine edict to come and upset the system. They were all disruptors.
As a person who
Every
feel like they got a calling on my life, it did everything to me when I learned that that's how Harriet did the Underground Railroad. It made it seem way more like, so after I had my spiritual awakening, I got all of these like downloads for you. Now it's funny, I didn't have a language then, but like uniting people. That share future or bust. It wasn't the language, but I got
mm,
those downloads, and it was kind of like, who, how the fuck I'm gonna do anything like that? And so then for a long period of time, the whole focus was becoming the kind of person. So I had to learn what the kind of person who does those kind of things is like. And when I found out Harriet Tubman used to pass out for a spell and come back
yeah,
knowing the way to go, and they just labeled it narcolepsy,
that's it.
it was kind of like, oh,
Right.
I could do this. And
Correct.
and then the belief and the action had to line up. And we got the comfy couch and we got
Hmm.
actively authentic allyship. I got R&R Village in my mind in coming into fruition. But it's nice to know we don't have to do it by ourselves.
No,
Oh,
you
it's
got a blueprint. We have amazing blueprints. Our poets, Baldwin and Lord, also showed us because poetry, particularly for those of us who are highly sensitive, I'm looking at the beautiful artwork that you have all around you. It helps us to process our experiences and in such a way that we cannot change minds, but we can open hearts.
every one of these paintings is a concept that well, except for the poor paints, but they were a thing in action in for my adult literacy class. But
Yeah.
they are my creativity even has, I have to give it meaning.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, it was a part of my purpose field. Like everything got to have purpose. Even like,
Everything. It's an intentionality. It's an intentionality to this existence. And so, for those of us who are more, I would say, spiritually and emotionally porous,
oh, I like that word, that verbiage.
yeah, it's important to give yourself permission to be fully expressed. And in so doing, when you give yourself that permission, then you start to see things different. Who doesn't have access to things like pleasure? I mean, when you're in an orgasmic state, aren't you just happier, lighter? And it has nothing to do with
I
anyone
have,
else.
I'm
It's
in a
just
better
you.
mood.
Yeah.
I'm getting laid regularly. I just am.
Or pleasuring yourself.
Yes. I pleasure myself, but I prefer the mutual experience
Yes.
because of that. So here's the thing: that to me is like the empaths. Like, this the best time, because if I could feel your good feelings too, come on. So it's the amp. I'm a person who like intensity, and
Yes.
the intensity that I just bring to the table. It's like I'm only feeling me, but feeling somebody else's desire is like,
It's a
bring,
beautiful
like,
thing.
it's why I like the mutual experience.
Yes. And so I think that you're bringing to the forefront the other aspect of being empathic. You can feel the highs too. I think of the conversation, it's so much of I gotta protect myself. I gotta protect myself. Gotta protect myself. It's too much. The world is too much. And yeah, yeah, that world is. But when you create your own world, and this is why I love the never ending story
Uh,
so much, because the beauty after we got over the nothing, which I feel like that season of COVID was the nothing.
I had a lot of something during COVID. I did.
Yeah.
I was one of the COVID success stories. I have to say it it. I won't say, because it's a lot of people with having a lot of emotions, and I go up and down because I do get a little isolated. But
Yeah, there's a way, but I would say, or and I would say part of the success in a season of great transition is what were you doing in the off season? See, it's game time now.
Now, I have to say you are 100%
You
correct
were in your
because
dojo. You
the
were doing your work.
working like a mofo on self and
And
my
that's really all it is. That's really all we can do. That's really all we can do. And when it comes to this work and empaths doing the social justice work, and Alexis, I'm honestly even trying to find better language. And I think Kim Worthy said it best during the beginning depositions of the Flint water crisis. And she said it just this simply: we just need to give a damn.
Mhm.
And I'm like, if that's not just the best, I mean, I know it sounds really simplistic.
So what I found is that a lot of people, I mean, this is opinions is like assholes. Everybody got them. That's a phrase for a reason. But I used to be one of them people that had all these ideas of what was right and and could judge the fuck out of something that's wrong and be accurate in it. But then in the doing of my dreams and the living and embodied it, it's more than a notion to give a damn when a bunch of people don't give a damn. But if people would give a damn as hard as they fight to not, it would be so much easier because we wouldn't have to have as much resistance. If we would simply work together toward our mutual goals instead
Mm-hmm.
of fighting our oppositions,
Mm.
the world would be the shared and inclusive future because everybody would be minding they fucking business instead of defending, you know what I'm saying, instead of defending against their fears.
And I think that's what it is. You're defending your position because you're afraid. And
I
so if we take it to a higher level to just bring it down and anchor it, do we not believe what we say when we say we live in an abundant universe? Do we not believe that there is plenty for everyone? And so, under the old paradigm, there were people with privilege. And now that that old paradigm is passing away, your fear is setting. It's like, well, where is my place in the world now? And, I know you do decolonization work, you do the anti racism work. And I share with my own cohort the same spirit that carried my ancestors through is going to be the same spirit that you can tap into. It's no respecter of person.
so, like we have the only thing we have is our choices.
That's it.
And the past is a living part of today through our ancestors, but the events of the past we cannot change. They were just in a different position in time. Well, that's why I say share future or bust. It's not that I'm getting out of the present moment, is that I'm using my desire to have a shared and inclusive future
Mm-hmm.
to guide my decisions in my now today.
Correct. Well, I
And
mean, if you want to go quantum, it's only the perpetual present.
right. Yes, and we can go quantum. I don't
Yeah, I
go
know.
there all the time.
Yeah, yeah. It's only the perpetual present, but you're right. It's the decisions and the choices that you're making now that give fruit to what our future is going to be. And I will say that these Gen Zers just have me so excited about what a shared future is going to look like. And we may not fully see it, Alexis, we may not see it in our lifetimes, but that doesn't mean that we don't continue to pray
Bump
for it.
that. I disagree. I've been thinking about that. I'm sorry. I don't mean bump that just like because you said it. I mean bump that. I don't want nobody to say it. Because time moves faster now, right? And as much as like we're liberated in our like in the societal oppression, we have a lot of liberated beings.
Mhm.
And I believe we will see it because them Gen Zers are so inclusive, because the boomers is finna die, because it just seemed like when I look at the how generations happen, because we got that skinny in between generation. I forgot what they called the ones that's above before the Xers,
So it's what is it? The
millennials.
Zers, millennials, X, And with baby boom.
Okay, so X, they the skinny generation. We have them. They don't have as many ideals that the baby boomers have. The boomers are aging up there, and pandemic and scarcity and a bunch of different things get them right on out the way. And then everybody, like, people have to grow into their division.
Correct.
So if we keep them unified, they won't grow into the division, and then we'll have everybody who's conscious, awake, alive, will be more inclusive. So I feel like we will see it. We might be old,
Well,
but I
I'll
feel
say
like we'll
this
see it.
just for sake of argument. Whether we see it or not doesn't give us an excuse not to do the work.
Now that's true. Oh
And
yeah.
what's important, I think, when we have conscious conversation too, and this is kind of where I get to, especially with our hope tech folks. Like, who decides who's conscious, and so it's like there's levels to it, because there's certain things out there, Alexis, in our spiritual world, where I'm kind of like, I don't know about that. But then there are other things where it's like, ooh, yeah, I know about that. And it's more of the universal principles. It just is what it, and I think that, in our world, particularly those who are empathic, may find that the shadow side of the gift has us, or can have you trapped in codependent relationships. It can have you trapped into thinking you're too much, or you're too big, or you're too emotional. And that's because you're still operating under the old paradigms program.
But then are you doing your work presently? Because I
Yeah,
feel like we go through this, everybody's on their own evolutionary journey. So if you
that's right.
are like, so that's what gives me the ability to have because it's a bunch of stuff that I'd be like, not for me.
Yeah,
If it's working for you, I have reverence for it. But it's different.
correct.
But that doesn't mean you're gonna be there in the next. Do I think that that's the best, the most efficient path? No. Do I, like? But you might only be there for 20 years. You might only be, and you might have needed to be there to have this knowledge. And so I feel like if people are doing their work presently,
That's it. Keep your eyes on your own paper.
then they're not. You don't have to. It's not for nobody else's spiritual system to work for you. Do your spiritual system work for you? And if you in alignment and they in alignment, then y'all mutual goals will align together and
Yes.
manifest.
And this is why it's so important, like I said, with the universal principles. And so, what I find so interesting, Alexis, is in conversation, particularly with like my Muslim sisters, they can give a surah and I can give a scripture, and it's saying like the same thing. And then that's like an indicator, or even in traditional, religion. If it's saying the same thing, clearly the all that there is has been trying to get our attention for the millennia. And so we can be hung up on dogma, or or what is it? You can get with this and you can get with that.
Or out here doing these things, making it like solve the problems you complain about. Even if it's your, to me, even if it's your religious problem. Now, while I'm not down for the missionary life, I'm not about that life, but I do live my spiritual principles loud. And
Yeah.
I advocate for other people to live their spiritual principles loud.
Loud. Loud.
Unless your choice, your preference is quiet, but embody fully all that you are, and you won't like, and then other people aren't threatening to you. To me, people worry about the dogma and all that just because they focused on the threats. I can find agreement with almost any religion, and guess what, and when I'm going there to be in someone else's spiritual space, you know what I'm gonna do? Find the thing I'm in alignment with that,
That's
and
right.
that's what I offer to this
Because we're
group,
all on the planet
period.
together.
Yes.
We're all here together. And I believe, this is just a Brenda thing. I believe the source, God, the universal presence, the author is, created us all uniquely. And if it didn't want us to be here, like everything has a purpose that is happening here. Like even when we look at the shadowy side of things, if there was not a purpose for it, it wouldn't exist. God wastes nothing. So since you're here and I'm here, we might as well get comfortable. And I love the coat and get on the cozy couch together. Because guess what? You're not going anywhere, and neither am I.
So
So
how
what we
we
gonna
gonna
do?
live? And frankly, we all change in the world. There's no not. Our existence changes it. But what you gonna do with the changes you make? How are you going to do it? But I feel like, Berhenda, we are talking seasoned spiritual being to seasoned spiritual being. I want to know about the unidentified empath, Berhenda, and how did she come to being?
Ooh. So I would say it was a lifelong journey in that I was always a super sensitive, inquisitive, peculiar child. So I remember, even when I came into the world, my dad said it was like I had been here before. Like I just came in and was like just looking around, like, okay. And then he said it was not so much looking, it was more like I was scanning my environment. And I'm like, well, did I cry? He was like, no, you didn't cry. You just kind of scanned your environment. Then around 18 months, I tell my parents to look up at the sky and they're like, what are we looking at? And they're like, you said space at 18 months.
Wow.
Wow. So I've always had like this kinship to the cosmos. Like I always felt like I was connected to everything and everyone. So like that's like the first check marker. And then I remember just watching commercials like to save the children, and I couldn't watch them. I would just start crying because it just hurt me so bad that we have people starving, and that bothered me. So fast forward, um, my mother is an activist. I grew up in a kind of an activist, you know, church, St. Matthew, St. Joseph. Shout out to you all. So they had like a social justice like framework, like worked into it. MLK spoke at the Poor People's March. So like it's a whole thing. So I think that for me, liberation theology was always a part. And I just couldn't understand how other humans would sick dogs on other humans, put them in furnaces. Why? For what? The Trail of Tears tore me up in school. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what's wrong with this? And I mean, be emotional about it. And the labels, too sensitive, overly emotional. Oh, there's nothing you can do about it.
Who told you there's nothing you could do?
Oh, we don't have
Not
time for
who.
that.
Not who.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
okay.
That's just the way it is.
Oh yeah, it is what it is. I will get a lot.
Mm-hmm. And I just found that to be unacceptable. So, fast forward to my adult life, poetry seemed like the only thing that would kind of help me process all the emotions and enter like color therapy. That color, I'm like, why do I love color so much? Like it does something to me, helps me cope. And I was just always drawn to mysticism. So I got introduced to it in college because even though I was taking Spanish language, so I'm bilingual. So soy bilingüe for my folks out here, because I know you got all kind of folks that listen in. Um,
They never heard me say soy way.
and I was like, okay. So the mystics, I'm like, yeah. Again, there's no separation between us and the divine. And I'm like, I like dancing like this, like, and there's no separation between us and another person. So I was like, yeah, I get that. That must be why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. So take another quantum leap forward. maybe about three, 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, how do I know what I know? So that's where the clairsentience, claircognizance come in. And I think that's in around the time when I met you. And I called and I was like, okay, Alexis. And I was like, bleh! And I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna think I'm crazy.
What you
Because
I was thinking.
I was getting all these down, like, and I'm just telling you these things because it was like I had like a celestial like earpiece in. I was like, okay, mm-hmm. Till the day, and then what? Okay, and that's sort of the way I started moving in the world. But I noticed that's the way I've always been moving the world. I taught intuitively. When I was hosting events, it was intuitively. I was just doing what I was told and being empathic. I believe I didn't have any resistance to it because I think we all are intuitive. It's just some of us have a resistance to it. We hear it. I mean, people will say things like, I knew better than this. How did I get, if I had just thought there was something that told me, and it's like, yeah, we all have that.
For me, I call them shiny thought. I didn't know I was claircognizant, frankly, until I heard you mention that as a title. But like then that made me want, like, when I was meditating, the shiny thoughts are the ones that would happen. But like
Mm,
that's how I would just know stuff. I just thought I was smart. Um and I feel like other people did too, but I didn't I until, like, because so much was focused on surviving and all, trauma story and all that good jazz.
mm,
It I just thought that I would have good, I didn't know it was different than other thoughts until I paid attention to what feeling was associated with my thoughts. Because
yeah.
it's not like you get, if you hear stuff, I do not. Every blue moon I hear it, like I'll get a voice, but usually I just know what things look like. But
Hmm.
and then lately, this last ritual for my clients, I could see the ritual in action, but it was like a molecular thing as opposed to like um seeing somebody do it. I would see the essence of the ritual interact with the elements the way that it was supposed to.
Hmm.
And
There are molecular empaths. So there are 17 different types of empath.
what hold on, wait a minute. Now I started out, I feel like it was 10 the last time I heard you tell, but I don't know
Yes.
what kind of empath I am, and I don't even know if I am one. Sometimes it's like I feel people's feelings and then I act it out. Well, I don't feel them. Well, I'll say this. I notice I'm acting them before I feel them. And then I'm like, why am I acting like this? Why do I feel so intensely? And then it's like, wait a minute, this state energy, not mine, because this isn't who I
Yes.
and I had
Yes.
to learn who I am to be like, this not me, this them. Every time I'm around them, this happens. And then I had to remember, and then once I started practicing more presence around them, then I didn't take on their stuff.
Correct.
Okay. So then
Correct. Pardon?
I'm an empath then?
I would say that you are
Okay.
because you're feeling of, and you're, and so it sounds like you've evolved it to knowing when you're um, in an empathic trigger because you're aware now that this isn't mine, this is someone else's.
Yeah, because the feelings feel like feelings. They don't turn you, they don't alarm your body and be like, I'm somebody else's. You got to know who your being is in order to be like, this is not my being.
That's right.
But it took me a while, a lot of paying attention to my being to be able to notice that that wasn't my being.
That's it. Yeah. That's really it. And then with that gift, understanding how to use it. That's the other part. And that everything that you get, every intuitive hit, doesn't necessarily warrant a response. Sometimes it's just for you to know,
And
because then that gets
everybody
us
doesn't want
in
to.
trouble because we want to go save people. And it's like, well, I got this. And it's like, okay, great, beautiful.
Whoop de doo is how I feel about it now. Like, so you still got to do, you
You,
still live a 3D life, boo. Is how
you still live a
I be
3D
feeling
3D life. And it's not for you to go intercept someone else's life lesson.
Mm-mm.
You can be there to support them, but you're not living the other because you're feeling the feelings of another person, you're not living their life.
Mm-mm. And I
And
don't
you
have to feel, I don't have to be keep focusing on them. Cause that's another, what I found out is where I put my focus. That it's my focus that allows the energy in. That
that's correct.
analytical mind of mine is like trying to figure them out and focusing on them with, and it's like there's a certain, I don't have the language for it, but like my brain activity changes in a certain kind of focus, and
Mhm,
that's when I absorb it. So like whatever I focus on is gonna expand, and it's gonna be like engulf my being. And
mhm.
so it made me be extra selective about my choice of focus.
Correct.
And
Because energy goes, what is it? Energy grows where energy goes, however the saying goes.
energy goes where attention flows.
Yeah.
But I don't. So you were, you didn't have like a one thing that told you you were an empath. Like you described symptoms that I now know come along with being empathic. But when did you have your aha that I am an empath and this is something I can teach other people how to live and manage? And like I heard you mention color therapy and stuff, but when did you go from needing, not needing, but seeking healing to being a healer?
Well, I think when you are in pain long enough, there comes a point where you want to get off the nail. And I would say that in my coaching container, working with a coach, that's when it all the pieces started to, you know, connect. And I'm a teacher by profession. Like even though I've left the classroom, just in me, I'm a life past nine, and that's what nines are. They're creative, spiritual teachers, ministers, prophet. Like that's what nines do. So it just clicked to me because that's just the way I think the lesson plan, if you will. It's just intuitively like, oh, okay, so I can teach other people how to do it because I just never saw it as anything to hide. I didn't feel like it was a problem. Like, this isn't a problem. That's what's wrong with the world. People don't feel enough.
They
We're
don't consider their feelings as a part of the data, but
yes,
will react. And when I say they, I include me. But yet they will react from a disappointment if from lack of expectation. They'll react to judge something and be all work their being all up into a tizzy from judging it, but will then say feelings don't matter or feelings aren't a part of the data you should include when.
exactly. And so now we're moving finally into a space within the last couple of years into social emotional learning. And especially if you're dealing with teenagers, I love them, but they are nuts.
Them hormones.
Yes,
I get hormonal shifts every month. If it affect my mood now, I had a lot going on in my teenage years, so it's hard for me to
but
look.
your frontal lobe, where this is where you sort of use the common sense and um, it's underdeveloped. It doesn't develop until so it's like literally you're running off of emotion. And if you know that this is where they are, and this is where I get upset sometimes with academia, is that there's more than one way to derive knowledge. It cannot simply, if you're dealing with human beings, not human doings, we can't intellectualize everything. And now we're starting to get into cultural humility. Now, finally, there is coursework around urban education and what that looks like. You can love your subject matter, but if your students do not believe that you love them, then it's a moot point. In a lot of cases, we are needing more education around being trauma informed.
Hmm.
So you think for 90 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever prolonged period of time they can just sit in their seats when tummies are rumbling or I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight or who's going to where am I going to be? Am I going to be with my dad? Am I going to be with my mom? Am I going to be with my grandma? Am I going to be with my aunt? Or dealing with the fracture of a missing parent? Come on now. And you really just expect them to sit there. And it's like that's the expectation.
I remember being that kid that couldn't, but now that I know I'm claircognizant, that worked for me to make it through school. And I
Yeah, come on. Well, come on, Cast Tech. So I mean,
and I enjoy learning. I do not enjoy homework. I do not enjoy being accountable for my learning, but I love learning. My curiosity is on 12.
well,
Um,
that's another trait of an empath. We're naturally curious.
but I remember being a kid that I wasn't a kid a lot. I was I just it's funny you were talking about the prefrontal cortex, and I'm like, well, my frontal is it wasn't developed, but I sure was making adult decisions from early years, and that I feel like when you're talking about social emotional learning, because adults be on some bullshit. If the adults in your life is on some bullshit, the adults in your school cannot be on bullshit because you can recognize it, right? Like, and I can feel your feelings, and I can feel your contempt toward me. So your information is invalid. Even if I wanted to, like, it took me to be an adult to be like, oh, you can get good information from bad sources.
And that's where the maturity comes in because then you can kind of start to separate the message from the messenger. But I do invite the notion and idea that we are whole humans. And just because in certain spaces I am the teacher, I'm also the student too. My students taught me a lot. They taught me definitely what not to do in many cases. Um, but also um, what to aspire toward. And especially for my Black boys, even though, my work is with girls, um, I had a special place in my heart for seeing my Black boys and seeing them happy and jovial, but also helping them to process through their rage.
I have recently begun processing my own rage that I didn't even know I had it until I was releasing it. Um,
Mm.
and then my brother, he was talking to me, and he talked about how I had rage attached to every feeling. As soon as I turn up, excitement and all of that, there was this hint of rage that would go along with it. And I feel like, and a lot of it was intergenerational, but I think a lot of, well, you know this, being a coach, a lot of people don't have language for their feelings, or have mislabeled feelings and when I say mislabeled, I mean like against what we normally would call that feeling. like
Yeah.
like what the collective would say this feeling is, that person has learned that that sensation in their body means a different thing. And so I feel like that's why some people do and don't respond to affirmations.
Oh,
um
I had to work through. I didn't respond to affirmations. It's kind of like when affirmations were like big, like the height, like, oh, just do affirmations. And it's like, well, for me, I can't say things that I don't believe. And that's what would trip me up. Like, I don't believe what I'm saying.
mhm.
So what's the point of saying it? Because I don't believe this.
Right. So when I would make my own affirmations, I would it would be based on things that I believed, things that I felt, like it would have to be like a path to truth.
Hmm.
So I couldn't say, "Oh, I am a millionaire." This year I could say that, not that I'm a millionaire yet, but my belief is there. But I couldn't say that, and from where I was making my $11,000 a year, feel like, or for that year it was 11,000. I don't think I knew it at how bad it was, but I couldn't say that and then be like, I'm a millionaire. I just couldn't go there, or I couldn't. For me, because of my wounds, I couldn't believe people loved me or cared about me,
Hmm.
and it
Oh,
was
we're always speaking from our wounds.
a journey of
Yeah.
like learning that, wait a minute, people didn't know how to love you the way you need to be loved. Some people chose not to love you intentionally. Like, it's, sorting through those things.
Yeah.
But you are it seems like you have a very experienced life, as far as
That's good wording for it.
you have very rich experiences as an empath. It was a
I
journey of
did.
discovery that you were an empath. You had to learn which tools of the trade did and didn't work. What kind of boundaries you that work for you and don't work for you.
Ma'am.
So then I know you're putting together this summit
Mhm.
and it has a whole lot of speakers and a lot of things. And so it seems to me like the summit may be a reflection of your experienced life. So tell
That's a good way of putting it.
the speakers and all. Tell us about the summit.
That is a good way to put it. Yes, I would say it is a culmination of my lived experience, and I hope that it supports other empaths on their journey. And it's creativity, and yes, it's business, and it's spirituality. And I also want to be clear too when I say spirituality, and I pray that this does not offend anyone. It is not my intention, but I know intention versus impact are not always the same thing. But it's not woo, woo, and love and light. It is shadow and curiosity. I mean, we get there, but we invite people to look at um, resilience and to look at, and I love that you brought this, you know, forward to Alexis, that it reminds me of one of our speakers. We are one of the best places in history as Black women. So now what do we do now that we have a lot of the language, not all, but we do have a great language. We have a sense of agency, and we also have all of this technology. And now we're having more open conversations about race, about therapy, but a lot of the things that in our community, we didn't want to talk about. So now we're here, and it's my endeavor that through this summit.
I just want to say this real quick. Shout out to all the people who used us as their therapists without us knowing that because y'all tuned us into the coaches that we are while you was too busy avoiding therapy. So shout out to y'all.
So shout out to y'all. Um, I did my level best to bring in um, these different experts, and I use that word lightly, but I would say different guides to come in and share with us their personal journey and their wisdom, and hopefully inspire empaths to say, yes, this is who I am, and I embrace it, and I can be a business owner, and I can be a social justice advocate, and I can be creative and expressive. I can be my whole self and make an impact in the world through my empathic gifts.
So it sounds like if I feel like I'm a person who has some emotional limitations to my dreams, I need to sign up for this summit.
Yes.
Okay. So if I need to sign up for this summit, when does it begin and how do I sign up?
So beautiful. So you can go over to my website, Ber-henda and just like it's spelled here, I got it right here on the ticker.
It won't show up on the recording, but it will be in the description. And while you at it, subscribe to the channel.
All right. So subscribe to the channel. Um, Head on over to
Oh no.
berhendawilliams.com. Sign up for the summit. It's only free. Yep, it's only free. And yes, if you are looking to tap into, um, I would say it's even more this the essence of being empathic and how it shows up and really wanting to own all parts of yourself, to show up as a whole leader, but also as a whole human. I will say that this is through the lens of the feminine, but I have men who've signed up for this too. So it's like, okay, go ahead and get in touch. Those who are male identified have signed up. So I really feel like um, all people can just take a deeper journey in, because there's a lot of aha moments and there's a lot of opportunities to anchor and to look at what shared power looks like.
Power versus
So
force.
not power over, but power with.
Yes.
Hmm. So it's all that. So definitely check out the summit.
You want to be inspired. So the thing, so I'm just so y'all know, I signed up for the summit. Okay, I signed up last week, or earlier this. I don't know what time. A time before now. But
Yes, look, you signed up, right?
yeah. Um, but what I want to, the reason I think that this, I found value and wanted to sign up for the summit is because if you are living an embodied life, if you understand you an empath or you don't, if you think you too sensitive, too much, too out there, you're not free to be, you don't feel like you could be yourself nowhere. You could either hire me or Ber-henda, just throwing that out there. But also, you need to see examples of staying the course, because I'm not here to tell you it's easy self work. It is not. I'm just telling you it's worth it. If you already feel like you to all of them things, do you want to live the next couple years of your life as being to all of them things, or journeying to know how to accept and love yourself so you can live the life of your dreams? And I
That's
don't
right.
it's like I mean, I don't. I gotta look at. I would have to look at y'all charts, but I'm not trying to limit the dreams. But I'm not saying that your dream has to be. Oh, I have this big grand purpose. But the life that you dream from a place of happiness rather than a place of despair. Do you want to learn
Mm.
to tools to navigate and regulate your own emotions? It's not about fixing you. It is you learning
Mm-mm.
how to live the way you want to live based on
That's
who
right.
you are.
And you're never too far from redemption. Like we have people on the summit who are recovering drug addicts. We have folks in there who've had near death experiences, people who are survivors, I would say survivors, now thrivers, of childhood sexual molestation. So I mean we get in here and are now, and I'm choosing my words carefully, that's why I'm pausing. It's not about the fact that they're six-figure business owners, because you can be have six figures and still be miserable. They're happy with their lives. They wake up with a sense of purpose and joy, even doing this emotional, laborious work. Because Alexis, I know you know that this is it.
Shallow conversations, I love, but every conversation is deep. But you know what that means? That at the end of the day, I'm tired of talking. It is emotional labor. It is like, whew, let me regain myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So sign up for the summit. Go to berhendawilliams.com. It's only free. You'll see the show on Saturday. Guess what that means? It's time to sign up because the summit starts on Monday. But how
Starts
so
tomorrow.
it go from Monday to when?
It goes from Monday to Friday, and there is a meet and greet on Wednesday. We have two amazing gifts for you in the vessels of Heather and Cass. So Heather is a sound healer. So she got all the tools. You know how like Erica Badu kind of has like yeah, in the bowls and her voice. So you're gonna have a whole healing experience, because that's the other thing too. We love music. Empaths love music, and it's not like it's a luxury. Like no, no, no. I got whole lists for my moods.
I
So
had
I,
to learn
yeah,
my impact, like in my early like trauma unpacking years. I cannot listen to music for how I feel. I have to listen to music for how I want to feel.
want to feel. That's right.
If I listen to how I feel, we just going deeper and deeper into that hole. It had to be how I
I
wanted to.
want it to feel. So there's certain tracks that I put on to move, regulate. So when I saw, discovered sound healing, I was like, oh yes, sign me up for all the with the gong and the bowls. Like sing to me. I'm here for it. Just sing to me. So
I had
we have that.
a funny sound healing experience. I did not
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find black sound healers, but I went to something. I was broke, so I signed up for something free. And it was in these people's it was in a university district, which is a mixed neighborhood now in Detroit, but it was predominantly black for a long time. So I thought, oh, they would be black. I get there, they are all white, and I'm the only black person in these white people's house. There's no way. And I just met them. They're all strangers. There's no way I'm feeling comfortable enough to even be in my spiritual space because I don't want them to think I'm stealing something. Like it was, I had to go to the bathroom, and the level of relief that I felt when I found out it was just right there so they could see me go in the room and out the room. I did not want to be. I left as soon as it was over, but I did not gain much from it because I was too busy making sure I didn't look bad.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to invite us into um, a spaciousness where your whole self can come in to this environment. Cass is indigenous to Hawaii, and so she has an ancestral prayer and poetry that she'll be sharing with us in community. So, those two bookends I wanted to have so that we understand again our connectedness. And the very first time I heard her pray, girl, I was a sobby mess. Like just they just started. And I think that's again that wholeness of your identity as Black folk on the continental United States, um, from the transatlantic slave trade. I don't know what my native language is. I mean, ancestry.com tells me it's Gez, which is an Ethiopian, but I don't know how to speak it, wouldn't be able to write it. And so it siphons, a part of you off. So the fact that she's able to reclaim herself, their self, that is so um gratifying. It's like, okay, well, sis, you got a piece of yourself. So in essence, like I got a piece of myself. So to hear you, it stirs in me because it's like, wow, she did it. So she did it. Maybe I don't have it, but through this experience and our connectedness, I get a piece of it too. So that's what's coming sort of midway in the summit. And then for those of you who purchase the VIP upgrade, you support not one but two organizations. So $47, you get the bonus of having a lifetime access to the summit. You get a 7-day e-journal. You also get Amplify Your Soul gifts as a visionary empath workshop, 45-minute strategy session with yours truly, and a contribution to the power of girlhood and figure skating in Detroit. Both organizations foster leadership for girls of color.
And y'all don't, just so you know, whether you buy the summit or not, don't feel like that's, you can still contribute to both of those organizations, because of donors like you, they get to make real change in the world. So contribute to those organizations and buy the summit if you are able to. I can vouch that Ber-henda does great work and has been doing great work for many years.
Thank you.
So it goes to a good place. People are genuinely being helped. Ber-henda is not out here living on the high hog at the expense of her nonprofit. So do not think that those dollars don't get put to good use. If you want a good way to uplift BIPOC people, put some money up in those
Put
organizations.
some money, listen, put your
Put
money
some
where
skin in
your
the
mouth
game,
is.
like Jamie Foxx say on that gambling commercial. If you want to share a future, put some skin in the game. Otherwise, shut up with your complaints and derision. I do feel that way. Um, so we are now, we have come to harmony. I forgot to bring the Care Bears in, but I feel like you have come to harmony with your gifts. You've told us your story. We know how to go to the summit. Go to berhendawilliams.com and sign up. Donate, buy the VIP pass and donate to the Power of Girlhood. Um, but you get to ask Alexis a question that I'm not prepared for. The thing is, so Ber-henda make me is, I told her ahead of time, which y'all know it took me a while to remember, but I told her ahead of time. But also, Ber-henda's super psychic, so her question, if I cry or something, just know she do that to me all the time. So Ber-henda, what do you want to ask Alexis?
Hmm. So right now, I don't know what I feel is coming up for me. So let's go back to teenage Alexis. All right. And I would say maybe around 16, I feel like there was like some, yeah, a rougher, rough. And you were coming to school one morning, and I mean, it was all you could do to get into the building. And I don't know if there was a brush or some kind of incident that happened, like with the security or something, but it was just like you came into the building And it was just like, look, y'all should be happy I'm just even here because y'all don't know what it took me to even get here. And this is the day y'all really want to do this to me. So, like, take 16-year-old Alexis into the office, into the comfy couch. What would you say to her
That's not
about that day and
fair.
how to move through the energetics of that day?
Oh, why would you even bring this up? See, I am crying. Um, so the day you see is the day that after I had attempted suicide. And I did not die, and I felt like a failure, even at that. And nobody knew, but when I went into the school, I feel like I was late or something. I don't know. I shouldn't have been driving, but I was like trying to because I tried to take a bunch of sleeping pills. That's how I did it, and I didn't try. I took. But I still woke up for school, and I was mad. I was mad that I was still present, and I drove, even though when I first stood out the bed, the ground met my face. Like I stood up and it felt like the ground came to me instead of me going to it.
Mm.
And then I drove my 6 shift to school. So like I drove a 6 shift with clutch and everything. And I get there and I'm late. Or I couldn't park right or something. And so then they send me, I think I had to go home or something. Cause people they did so the thing is it wasn't they didn't give me trouble. Because I was always a reasonable child. Like you could reason with me. And it was clear that that was the way that you don't want me to get into defiance. So reasoning with me is the best way. And they just told me to go back out or something. And I went to the ROTC building and I just snuck into the auto shop. And my friend saw me. He was like, "You look like shit on the stick." And that is the
Mm.
most anybody noticed about that. And what I would say to her to answer your question
Mhm.
is that it does get better and you'll be happy that you failed. But the thing that I would feel, it gets better, but it took a long ass time. And I think I would probably tell her that and to like know that it's worth it. But it's gonna get worse before it gets better. But it does get better. But it took from that day, it took a long time. Maybe not, but long time in that teenage mind.
Oh yeah.
Um, things actually, you're right. I mean, well, things got better once I got on my own and after my mom died. But I didn't know how to adult. Well, I mean, I did. I just stayed doing all the stuff that I was doing before, but I didn't know how to emotionally adult.
Mhm.
And that was the thing that I like when I say it took a long time. Is I knew how to task adult, and I was 19 when she died, but I didn't know how to emotionally adult. And then I had been raised that emotions didn't matter. So by having all of those emotions, grief and depression, anxiety, all kind of things, I didn't. I stayed depressed even when I became financially secure. And then I didn't begin my healing journey until a few years after becoming financially insecure again and then seeing all the stuff that it like pulled out of me.
Mhm.
But I would tell her it gets better and it's worth it. It
Mhm.
How much time do I get with her though? Because if I get time with her, then I would like coach her up and it wouldn't be as bad as long. I would coach her up on her emotional needs. But if I didn't get time, I would try to arm her for her journey.
I would invite it into a spaciousness of you're intercepting her and not in a bad way, but it's like coming to a pit stop. You're the adult Alexis, like cruising on the highway and you came up to the rest stop. And it's like, hey, woo, I've been waiting on you. Come on here. Come into this room. Let me talk to you for a second.
Yeah, I would talk her through what was going on and give her some love. I wouldn't tell her
Mhm.
she looked like shit on a stick.
No, I would hope not.
Um, but kids do kid things, right? We was both kids.
Yeah.
uh,
Yes, and that was a knee jerk reaction.
it yeah, I would probably love on her. I don't know if how receptive she would have been receptive to it. She was definitely not as guarded as she became.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that was my question. And
Well,
I would say just even after this, take
yeah,
her to lunch.
work time. I got stuff to do later. I have a full schedule, Ber-henda. But this is what I mean about working with, like, why you should hire her. Is because she does get hits like that, and I mean, Ber-henda has called me with downloads from my moonbeam. Like, it just, I guess I was taking too long, which I still need to get on that. But it's when you have someone who can see so clearly some things in you, it is helpful to have them be able, like, to be your guide. Because one thing that she always comes from is a place of love. Um, and I appreciate her example for sure. Because now that I am clearer with my moonbeam and I have more, like, my moonbeam talks to me, it talks to me about other people before. But now, like with my clients, we go on these guided journeys. It is nice, like, to have you as inspiration. It is nice to have things like an example to look and learn and not feel too much from, or too much, some I get hits and it still be like, should I say this or should I not? Is this accurate? And then you say it and be like, well, so then there was this one time, and it's like, okay. And you like, I see this moment, da 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 da. Well, the moment you see is actually this one day. Um, so hire her, sign up for the summit, elevate her, pray for her, do something good, pray with positive intention. So, and if you like feel extra traumatized and stuff, don't pray for her. She don't need all that energy. Um, she's emotionally poor. She don't need to be blocking you.
Ah!
Do you have anything you would like to say to the people or to me, Ber-henda?
Well, one, I love you, Alexis,
I love you too.
and I see you, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And two, the younger Alexis that we just called up, we see you, we love you too. And just get out here, show them what you're working with, and you're not buried, you're planted, beloved, and you're going to bloom and tesseract beautifully.
Well, that's today's Comfy Couch episode, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all go while I get myself together. Don't forget to sign up. Go to berhendawilliams.com. I'm doing this like this is where it's gonna
Right,
be.
because it's like a ticker. Like that's
How my editing goes, but it's probably gonna be way down in the description. Because I'm the editor. So we'll see y'all next week.
oh, thank you.